Missed the last train. Need to book an Uber. Bloody hell, no Wi-Fi. Oh, I guess I'm staying up all night. Oh, I'm too old for this. Out drinking late in Japan? Stay safe and be prepared. Get Wi-Fi coverage across Japan and Google where to go. Rent a mini Wi-Fi router or eSIM with Ninja Wi-Fi. Trusted by 21 million customers worldwide, Ninja Wi-Fi provides great service for an affordable price. Visit ninjawifi.com and use the code GAL for 20% off.
海外旅行や出張の準備は万全ですか？次回、日本を離れる際は、グローバル Wi-Fi で安心。イギリスやアメリカを含む200以上の国と地域で Wi-Fi が利用可能。全国39カ所、そして20の空港で便利な受け取りサービスをご用意。さらに128の国と地域で無制限プランも。お得な価格で快適なインターネットを。今すぐタウン Wi-Fi.com にアクセスし、クーポンコード GAL を入力して 10% 割引をゲットしましょう。この番組はグローバル Wi-Fi、忍者 Wi-Fi、Wi-Fi レンタル、クランチーロール、そして JAL の提供でお送りします。
So, hear me out, guys. I just came up with this idea while eating lunch, but imagine if Koei made a Musou Maker game. Let's talk about that, as well as what I had for lunch after the disclaimer. For you new folks, GALP is a weekly gaming discussion podcast under the GALP Podcast Network. We talk about all sorts of games, from big AAA titles all the way to awesome indie games. Our forte is Japanese games, so expect that a lot. We can be found anywhere where you listen to podcasts, including Spotify, Amazon Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, and now on YouTube. Whilst you're there, be sure to give us a 5-star review. And remember, if you want to join in on the fun, then follow us on all of our socials. That's Blue Sky, TikTok, Insta, and X, all at GAL Podcasts. Korean fried chicken. I had Korean fried chicken for lunch. I was trying to do a Hillary Clinton meme. Don't know if you guys remember that. Casey Neistat, Hillary Clinton. I'm voting for him. Okay, it's not political, but I was trying to do that meme. Anyway, it was a bit heavy, but you know what? I had leftovers, and we're not about wasting food. All right? So, Musou Maker. I'm surprised this isn't a thing yet. We had something similar with Musou Battlefields in Orochi 3, and it was fun. But ultimately, it was a side mode to flesh out the game's overall features. Not many people used it, and I don't think anyone uses it anymore, except to break the game and level up characters and ultimate weapons after a single stage. What a specific example, Bish. It's because that's what I used to do in Orochi 3 when playing Musou Battlefields. I used to test the limits of a Musou game, and to this day, Koei never patched it. Through Musou Battlefields, I managed to reach the KO cap, which is 9,999. Back then, you couldn't even go beyond 10,000 KOs. And I'm not sure if that's possible in Origins. It might be possible in Dynasty Warriors Origins, but I'm not too sure. Bear in mind, we're talking about a game that was originally released on the PlayStation 3, so there would have been some level of limitations. But yeah, nothing special happened when you even reached that number. It would have been nice to have some sort of voice line or something. Musou Battlefields was a free mode editor, basically. It allowed you to amend and change most aspects of a battle, the characters that were features, the looks, the theme of the stage, and NPCs. For example, you can choose for the enemy to have an Orochi soldier skin, or to look like a Samurai Warriors soldier, or a Dynasty Warriors soldier, or a Bladestorm soldier. It also allowed you to extend the time of battles if you wanted to create your own speedruns. Best of all, Musou Battlefields allowed you to share your creations with the world. As I mentioned, most people didn't take advantage of it. Unfortunate. And there were some few drawbacks. Changing dialogue and characters were very superficial. Like, for example, you can swap out an enemy Guan Yu for a Cao Cao, but it would still be Guan Yu saying the lines. It's purely a character model swap. Other characters do not even acknowledge that a character has been changed or modified. Now, with regards to a Musou Maker game, Koei Tecmo have a few ways of implementing it, but I think it might go one of these two ways. Firstly, they can rebrand Musou Battlefield as its own game, or include it as a part of Warriors Orochi 5, fixing a lot of problems that the previous Musou Battlefields had. That way you can include a whole cast of characters and create fan stories as much as you like by using character motion portraits and dialogue you can actually type in. Mind you, there won't be any audio in this game unless Koei used AI voices, but I don't think they'll do that because it would piss a lot of people off, including myself. Or the second and more complex but potentially more exciting option, Koei could treat this game as a brand new IP, really flesh it out, maybe work with Kadokawa Games to actually make it similar to the RPG Maker series. Actually, come to think of it, they could have elements from both RPG Maker and Mario Maker to make this the ultimate game maker, but specifically for Musou. I know this sounds very niche, but hold on here, guys. Of course, it needs a lot of work on Koei's end to actually do it properly. The way I see it, Koei could provide a standard library of assets from a bunch of different games, including stages, NPCs, music, movesets, as well as game filters. For example, if you wanted to create a Musou that looks like it's straight out of Dynasty Warriors 2, oops, I said Dynasty Warriors, I meant to say Dynasty Warriors, you could apply that filter. I'm a bit conflicted, but in my opinion, I don't think Koei's Musou Maker should include characters from previous games, but rather their weapons and their movesets. Reason being is, I see this game as an opportunity for the community to create and share their own Musou style games. And also, it kind of justify Koei putting a Musou Battlefield back into Orochi 5, where people can actually make their own fan edits or fan stages with the characters that already exist. So this is kind of meant to be more of a platform where people can actually create their own games using the assets provided by Koei. And to do that, it needs to be somewhat separated from Dynasty and Samurai Warriors. And that way, they can also include the character creator from Wolong, so that you can actually create your own unique characters. Within Musou Maker, you could in theory select what style of Musou game you want to go for as like a base template. For example, maybe you wanted Orochi series as a base template so that you can character switch. But if you selected Dynasty Warriors 4 as a base, then you'll be greeted with a game with no weapon switching, but weapon progression, bodyguards, and the ability to select items that add elemental effects. Or let's say you picked Dynasty Warriors 2 as a base, and then you have a great setup for a purely arcade style hack and slash. And this is quite interesting. Koei could even dumb this down and decide, hey, you can choose 3 types of Warriors games to build your base off: Dynasty Warriors, Samurai Warriors, or Warriors Orochi. And then it would kind of base it off the most modern one, or I would say the most fleshed out one. So in this case, if Koei was to make this game tomorrow, or release this game tomorrow, and they were to implement that, then I'd imagine your Dynasty Warriors base would be Dynasty Warriors 8, your Samurai Warriors base would be Samurai Warriors 4, and your Orochi base would be Orochi 4. Potentially. And there is always the possibility, bear in mind, this is a hypothetical, there is also the possibility that you can create without limits. You can go into an advanced creator mode where you can pick and choose features from each game. For example, let's say you wanted movesets from Orochi 4, right? There are some exclusive characters in that game, but you didn't want character switching. Instead, you wanted weapon switching, and also wanted hyper attacks from the Samurai Warriors series. In theory, you could do that. Once the initial setup is done, you could structure your game in chapters and either decide to create one where you have one-shot stages, similar to a free mode, or create a game with a story and input characters' dialogue and character interactions. And I can see this working in a similar fashion to RPG Maker. And I also see the stage maker part of things, right? Where you've done your story maker, right? Where you build your story out, you do your keyframes and all that kind of stuff. If you want a sort of branching storyline, you can do it there. Basically the stuff that happens before battles and after battles, right? And then you have your stage builder. This is the most important part, and I would say the funnest part in my mind, where basically think of Mario Maker, where you can drag and drop elements from various games on a map with a grid, and an isometric view. That's not necessarily similar to Mario Maker, but kind of think about it like this. Mario Maker is 2D, and it's really simple to implement in that sense. But imagine a 3D version of that. Similar to how maps are in Dynasty Warriors Godseekers. Funnily enough, that game made me think that Koei actually had a map maker that's simply drag and drop from a library of assets. And that kind of led to the creation of this episode. So, for example, you can drag and drop spawn points for enemies and NPCs, plan out travel routes for NPCs, and create scenarios in which an enemy takes out multiple allies with a swift blow off screen, similar to how Guan Yu defeated Yan Liang and Wen Chou in the Battle of Guandu. Players can also add their own assets like voiceovers, dialogue boxes, unique artworks for loading screens, etc., and potentially even music. Now, this game can get really complex, and the way I'm seeing it is controllers wouldn't be the optimal way of navigating the creation portion of this game. You'd need a mouse and keyboard. And I believe the Xbox and the PlayStation supports these inputs for certain games. I think Monster Hunter also supports the inputs, I think on Monster Hunter Wilds, because I've seen menu options for it. So yeah, that is an option. Also at the same time, I can see this working well for the Nintendo Switch 2, which is speculated to have some sort of mouse support built into the Joy-Cons, and obviously it would work really well on the PC. The more I think about the game, the more complex it sounds. But let me know in the comments, would you like to see Koei release a Musou Maker game? And would you think it's a good or bad idea? It's a very interesting one to me because I can see this going another way as well, where you have two portions, right? Where this game might not necessarily be the most powerful to be running on PS5, etc., or it might not necessarily be the best playing experience to do so. And Koei could split the game in two. For example, you have a Musou Maker platform, which is free to download, which is basically a portal that you can access everyone else's saved games and actually get to play them. It's more of a community hub, and that's free. And you have the second part of it, which is more so a game, which is what I described in terms of your building portion. And you can maybe keep that only for PC or for the Xbox, because I believe Microsoft is coming out with a more hybrid style console soon. I'm not too sure of that, but that's the rumors that I've heard. That's something they can do, to kind of split it for the people that want to create these games. They can do so on PC, or the people that actually want to play these games can play it on any console, Switch, PlayStation, etc. I can also see this working as a development tool. Koei could initially have this as a game and then license out to other people. For example, use this as a program that people can use, similar to Live 2D, similar to any sort of game engine, and just allow people to license it from Koei. And that's one thing that I'm seeing, and one thing that is a bit of a concern, because some people were like, well, how is Koei going to make money if you basically allow people to play these games for free? Then I'm presuming there could be some sort of publishing pass or something like that, where you can publish certain number of games a month or in a year, etc. And we kind of get into like muddy territory in terms of monetization, how this thing would work, and then it kind of falls apart. But that's kind of my idea regards to Musou Maker. If you guys have any better ideas or how we can improve on this, let me know. And that's kind of the discussion. Let's have that discussion on Discord. Let's have it on X. Let's have it on Instagram. I don't know. I don't think people use Instagram for discussions, but let me know what you guys think. There's also a comment section below as well, whether you're listening on YouTube or on Spotify. If it's a bad idea, let me know and give me ways to improve it. This was basically a new idea for GALP, which is basically, it's called the Musou draft, or the fantasy draft, effectively, where I come up with ideas for games. And we'll be having other guests on as well. You might have remembered we done episodes with Chris Gildart where we kind of tested out this idea, and we actually predicted some Koei games in the making of it. So it's basically an opportunity for me and for other creators as well to join in and come up with ideas and have Koei basically listen and steal the ideas. So yeah, that was the fantasy Musou draft, I guess. And yeah, we'll see you guys next week. I don't know what episode we'll have next week. I'm still playing through Monster Hunter, and I'm like an hour in. The game came out like 3 weeks ago, and I'm literally an hour in, and I still have to do my Dynasty Warriors Origins review, and there's so many other reviews. I've got literally a whiteboard with all the different reviews I have to complete, and yet I still want to do this Fantasy Musou draft thing even more. So I think probably next week we'll be talking about Orochi 5 and what I would love for a future entry into the Warriors Orochi series. That being said, see you guys. Bye.